So a quarter of the plate, at least, depending on the type of athlete, should be quality carbohydrates, about a handful. Okay, so that could be brown rice, about a sweet potato, pasta, whole grain tortilla, whole grain bread, beans, all of those, any of those, a combination. And those aren't just the only sources. This is certainly not a comprehensive list, but it gives an idea that at least a quarter of that plate should be carbohydrate from those sources. And they provide great sources of fiber. The other piece to this plate, now you look at this and you see a quarter of the plate, that doesn't seem like a lot for athletes. Well, half the plate is fruits and vegetables. Those also provide a good source of carbohydrates as well. Fruits in particular, and then vegetables provide some as well. The other thing that all of those provide are fiber. We want to make sure we're fueling our body with enough. So the sources, I just listed some of those. Each has unique benefits, right? So we want to add a variety. It's not just fiber that I talked about, it's the B vitamins, it's many other minerals and vitamins and antioxidants. We get a ton of great nutrients from quality whole grains. And it's an important conversation that needs to be had because unfortunately, a lot of the information that's out there now is telling athletes and people in general to reduce their carbohydrates. If you want to perform at your peak, you shouldn't be reducing your carbohydrates. You should be focusing on the quality. Now, that being said, there is certainly a role for simple carbohydrates as well. During performance, especially extended performance, sports drinks can play a big role. If you're an athlete exercising consistently for over 60 minutes, they can play a major role. After a workout could be a time for a simple carbohydrate. Even before a workout, depending on what you're going to do, depending on how much time you have before the workout. So there's a lot of variables, but in general, most of the diet should be focused on the quality whole grain, high fiber type of carbohydrate. Like I said though, simple carbohydrates play a role as well, but whole grain, fruits, vegetables should all make up the bulk of that carbohydrate intake. So look at nutrient density. Most nutrients for the foods with the least amount of carbohydrates is best. Again, looking at digestion time. How much time do you have before an activity? That determines, if I'm going to go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning, at 20 after 5 on the way to the gym, I'm not going to be eating a bowl of oatmeal, for example, with fruit. I'm going to be maybe sipping on a sports drink or sipping on something that's quick acting, maybe even a banana or something along those lines. And then also it's personal tolerance. So carbs are digested at different times, differently due to things like fiber. So athletes need to understand their bodies, and that's where you come into play, helping them, give them suggestions, and helping them work with what they can tolerate. That's really, really important. So how much should we be eating? Again, I mentioned that right now, and it's been now for many, many years, the trend is to decrease carbohydrate intake and focus only on protein. Yes, protein is important, but we also need to think about how much carbohydrate, because again, that is the primary source of fuel. So most data suggest athletes should be eating around 45 to 65% of their calories from carbohydrates. Now, I would say on the low end, if you're looking at athletes, that could be athletes that are not as active in their particular sport. Maybe things like baseball, for example, where they do a lot more standing around than a sport like endurance cycling or soccer or basketball, where they do a lot more running. Or depending on the position of the sport, maybe a lineman in football was going to have lower needs than a running back or a safety that's going to be doing a lot more running during play. So we're looking at some governing bodies. The American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and the American College of Sports Medicine suggest about 6 to 10 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight, or about 2.7 to 4.5 grams per pound of body weight, since most people work in pounds. Okay, this will provide optimal fuel for working muscles during the demanding activity, and that's what's important.